Hey, welcome back everyone for another arcade video. Things are still a bit of a mess out here, but I've got Space Fury back in its spot now that the monitor's fixed. But I'm really excited about today's video because I'm going to be doing something that I've never really done before, and I'm going to be attempting to modify a joystick. And before I get there, I need to talk about our Miss Pac-Man cabinet here because it revolves around this game. Now, I never did a video series on this, but I think we did this 5 years ago. Yeah, about 5 years ago, right during the pandemic, Carrie got a real beat up Miss Pac-Man, and she was seeking one out because she wanted to restore it. And so that's exactly what we did. In fact, this might be the most labor intense restoration I've ever done because this cabinet was just beat to heck. It was really beat up. I'll try to throw up some pictures. And we went through and did the whole stencil. Now, this is my first time doing a stencil job, and we used rattle cans. It came out absolutely beautiful, but man, it was a painstaking process. It was, to say it's a labor of love is an understatement. Let's just put it that way, but it came out beautiful. I'm really pleased with it. It's a beautiful cabinet. So with that said, let's talk about the elephant in the room. You guys are probably screaming at me already. But look at that control panel. You guys are probably saying, well, what the hell? That is not original. There's 4 extra buttons here. This joystick's not original. And I'll tell you right now, there's a reason for that. So when Carrie got this, or sought out a Miss Pac-Man cabinet, she did that for a couple of reasons. One is that Miss Pac-Mans are one of the most common games out there. They're not that difficult to find. I'm not sure if that's changed recently, but back then, at least 5 years ago, they were fairly common. I think they still are, honestly. And she also wanted to get this cabinet because it would be a good candidate for Craftymech's Bitkit. If you guys aren't familiar with that, the Bitkit is an FPGA that our buddy Aaron Reed made years ago. In fact, I want to say this is like 2016, 17, somewhere in there. He can correct me if I'm wrong if he's watching this. But it's been out for a bit. But if you guys aren't familiar with FPGA, it's hardware emulation. And Aaron spent many, many hours, who knows how many, adding games to that platform. And so this isn't just Miss Pac-Man that's on here. There's actually, let me go to the menu here. Cancel out of here. There's a whole pile of games that he's added over the years. And he's spent a ton of time, a lot of effort getting these games absolutely arcade perfect. Let me just move up here so you can see the screen a little bit more. So there are literally dozens of games. In fact, I haven't really kept up to date on it, but he's not only added a bunch of vertical games over the years, but he's now doing horizontal games as well. And actually, if you guys are familiar, my Eyes cabinet has this same Bitkit in it. That's what it's running, and it's got Eyes. He's put, well, here, let's just scroll through it. Frogger, Pango, Lizard Wizard, The Glob, Beastie Feastie. I mean, there's just a ton of really obscure, really cool games that he's added over the years, and they play absolutely perfect. And I can tell you this because he's reached out to various people who are experts on these games, in some cases world record holders, to make sure that they're absolutely dialed in perfectly. For instance, let's see, well, he reached out to me for Eyes because I hold the world record on that game. And when he was getting that game perfect, I remember play testing it and giving him a little bit of feedback, like little things, like the sound could be tweaked a little bit, but the gameplay and everything, I mean, if you put, here, if you threw Eyes up on here, and you told me that, you know, guess, is this original hardware or not? I wouldn't be able to tell you. Same goes with all the other games, including Miss Pac-Man. And so that's a long-winded way of saying that the FPGA stuff is absolutely awesome. And this is a perfect cabinet for the vertical games. So talking about the joystick again, the reason why there's this abnormal joystick, not the original Midway Miss Pac-Man joystick, is because some of these games are 4-way and some of them are 8-way. let me just go through here. I'll give you guys some examples. So Nibbler's 4-way. Some of these I'm not actually sure of. Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, those are obviously 4-way games. But you go to something like, I think Tasmania, I want to say, let's see here. Lizard Wizard, that's a prime example. And that's actually one of Carrie's favorite games. Those are 8-way games. And so if you're trying to play those with a 4-way stick, you just can't, because you can't reach those diagonals, because the restrictor gate is like, I can't really do this from here. Okay, I found something. I grabbed a leg leveler plate here. This will suffice. So when you're playing a 4-way game, the restrictor looks kind of like this if you're looking straight on. You got your left, right, up, down for the switches. And this restrictor prevents you from hitting corners, thus not hitting the up and the right switch simultaneously, or up, left, and so on and so forth. When you're playing an 8-way game, it looks just like a square. So not only can you hit up, down, left, right, but you can hit this diagonal, which is up and right simultaneously, both those switches, and so on and so forth. And so technically, you could use an 8-way stick to play a 4-way game, like say, let's see here. Well, let's say you're playing Miss Pac-Man, and you're using an 8-way stick. And you're trying to go, let's see here. Let's just say you're trying to go, traveling up and you want to hit left. If you accidentally hit somewhere up here, you may actually hit the up switch before you hit the left, and the game won't know what to do, and you might not even go left. Or you might hit those simultaneously, and you still won't go left. Or, you know, it might be okay, but you have to be very deliberate, and it gets really frustrating, especially at a high level. So while it's technically possible, it's just not worth it. It's really, really frustrating. And when you're trying to play an 8-way game with a 4-way stick, you really can't, because you'll never be able to hit those two switches simultaneously. You can't hit those diagonals. So with that said, let me scroll down here. The whole reason for this joystick is that it allows you to change the restrictor fairly easily. And I say fairly because it's supposed to be convenient, but it's really not. So the way that this works, and I'll show you guys in a second here, but there's a restrictor plate that you can loosen and just twist, and it'll change it from 4-way to 8-way or vice versa. But the problem with this is that since it requires you to actually grab that restrictor and twist it, it requires opening up the coin door, reaching up, and it ends up just being a pain in the butt. So what ends up happening more times than not is that we've got all these games out here, and you know, one of us, you know, like let's say Carrie wants to play Lizard Wizard, and right now it's in the 4-way position. Because typically we'll have Miss Pac-Man playing, because we'll have friends that come over here and they want to play Miss Pac-Man. It's in the Miss Pac-Man cabinet. Especially like if we're doing Halloween or whatever, and we have this open up to everyone, we'll have it on Miss Pac-Man, so we'll have the stick on 4-way. But let's say it's just us, me and Carrie out here, and we want to play a bunch of games, and she comes up to this cabinet, and she's like, you know, I really want to play Lizard Wizard, but the stick is on 4-way, and you know, the lights are out, and so rather than, oh, I have to go get a flashlight, I have to open up the coin door, I have to reach up, and hopefully I find that restrictor with my hand, twist it, and hopefully I don't bump like a quick disconnect till ground or something comes off. So rather than going through that, because now it's all become a big hassle, she'll just skip out on playing Lizard Wizard, and it'll just kind of get forgotten, and she'll play something else. But, you know, really she wanted to play that game. And so while it is supposed to be convenient, it ends up not being, and thus the games kind of get forgotten or left by the wayside. So, so with my Eyes cabinet at home, I have the Bitkit in there, and for that very reason, I only have 4-way games on there. I don't have any 8-way games. I guess in the perfect world, I'd have another cabinet with 8-way games, and maybe in the perfect world, we'd have 2 cabinets, one for just 8-way games and one for 4-way games, and maybe we'd have 2 more cabinets for horizontal 4-way games and horizontal 8-way games, but it's just not practical for us at this point. We have very limited space, as most of us in this hobby have. So rather than doing that, I decided just the other night, I'm like, you know, why don't I go online and see if there's something that's come out since then, you know, because people are always working on different solutions, and see if there's something that's a little more practical. And so let me remove this control panel, show you how that joystick works right now, and show you what the plan is and what I'm going to try to do to make this even easier. Okay, so here's my control panel. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going to flip this over and so we can see the bottom of the joystick here. Let's see, that should work. Got some wires in the way here. You guys probably need to see some additional light. And let's zoom in on this here. There, let me shift over. Okay, so here's our restrictor plate. That's this round plastic thing here. So ideally, what you would do, so right now it's in the 4-way position. If you can see here, it's kind of like a diamond. So if I push up, down, let's see here, left, right, it can only hit those directions. It can't hit diagonals. Even if I try, it's not going to happen. So if I wanted to change this to 8-way, ideally all it would take would be me to reach up through the control panel, or through the coin door, up to here, grab this guy and rotate it like that. And now you can see it's more like a square. So we got they would call this a square gate. And now I can hit all of my directions. I can hit my diagonals just fine. Okay, that's great and all, but that's only in the ideal world. More times than not, it becomes more of a hassle to do this. So let me show you what my plan is. Okay, so the other night I was surfing the interwebs and Googling and seeing if there was anything else out there. And one of the first results that came up was this guy here. This is the GRS TOS Switchable 4 to 8-way restrictor. So what this is it's actually a servo-controlled restrictor. It is actually a motorized restrictor that you can switch between 4 and 8-way with literally the push of a button, which sounds freaking awesome. Now, I did notice that most of the people that are using these are people that are using like arcade 1-ups, MAME rigs, things like that. Not legit, you know, classic arcade games, but I think this is still going to work. And regardless, we're going to give it a shot, because this would be absolutely awesome if all we had to do was push a button to toggle between 4 and 8-way. So let me get set up here and let's see if we can get this installed. All right, so let's open this guy up here. I already looked at the instructions briefly, and it does look pretty darn simple. All right, so we've got these restrictor templates. I don't think we're going to be using those. And then there's our instructions. Let me put this stuff over here. Okay, so we've got some sort of cable there. This is the controller board. This is our button for switching between 4 and 8-way. And what's interesting about this, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a split button. There's actually 2 buttons. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of interesting design. And then it has this pin out here. So that definitely, I mean, obviously that plugs into here. But I mean, I'd be curious what the pin out is, because I was kind of hoping that this would just be a standard push button, or you could wire it up like a standard push button. So if you push it once, it'd be 4-way. If you push it again, it'd be switch back to 8-way. But you know, it's kind of cool. And I guess this lights up too. So I'll tell you this though, I am not going to be putting this on the control panel. I'm not making another hole for another button. More than likely this will go somewhere inside the coin door that's easy to access. The main reason for that isn't so much that about the pain of making another hole and it looking tacky, which it probably would. The main reason why I don't want to do that is we have guests over all the time, and I don't want them to be confused by this button and be pushing it and being like, well, what's this button do? And, and get confused by that. So that'll probably go inside the coin door. And then let's see here. These are some adhesive standoffs. It looks like foam, adhesive foam. Oh, okay. So you mount that onto here if you want to just use these foam pieces to mount it somewhere. Because this is a really tiny, light PCB, which is good because I could mount it inside on the underside of this control panel, which I might have to depending on the length of that cable. And then here, this is the guts of everything. So you can see here's our restrictor plate, and then there's a servo down here. So fairly simple design, and that's pretty darn small. That's smaller than I was expecting, and that should fit. That's pretty cool. I'm getting excited. I hope this works. All right, let me put that off to the side, and then last is our USB cable. So, okay, that's right. I do remember reading about this. This thing can be plugged into a computer. So there's actually a utility. There's some software that you can use to, I guess, fine-tune the servo if you want it to, I don't know, if you need to adjust it somehow. But then it's also powered by this, by the 5 volts of the USB. And I do have an idea for this. I was kind of bummed actually, but because I just wanted a straight like full 5 volt, you know, ground and 5 volt wire, like just a little 2-wire thing that I could run to my power supply. But I have a way around that, so it's really not a big deal. So I'll get to that in a minute here, but that's it. Okay. Well, let's get started here. And I think the first thing we need to do is just remove that restrictor plate on the joystick. So I don't even think I need to remove the I don't even think I need to remove the joystick entirely. I think I can just remove that restrictor plate. Sure. Oh yeah, yep. Okay, so I also want to see how all this gets wired up. Oh, I dropped something here. Okay, so I want to see how this works here. Okay, so according to the instructions, oh, you can actually have 4 of these. So I guess if you had a big cabinet with 4 sticks that you wanted, you could just buy 4 of these and plug it onto this controller board. This controller board supports 4 of these guys, and they're all supplied by the 5 volts here. Okay, so this seems very simple, and that's good. All right, let's get started here. Okay, so the first thing is I'm going to remove the old restrictor plate here, and that's just these screws. Let's see, can you guys, let me go zoom in here. Okay, so there goes our restrictor plate. Now, actually, you know what? Okay, so that's the one I just removed, and here's our new one. I just want to see if this does look like it lines up. I will say this plate seems to have more throw. It's not as tight as this one. You can kind of tell the difference here by the size of the square. Hopefully that's not an issue. I guess we'll find out. So let's see here. I want to put this on here. So I'm thinking, let me zoom out here. So my initial thought is, since there's all this real estate here, that's where I'll put that controller board. And so since we don't have that long of a cable, I'm thinking it should probably be mounted something like this. I mean, well, I guess it'll still work. Yeah, I'm gonna try to go like that. All right. Okay, I found the holes where they line up. There really wasn't much in the manual, and I just realized that by trial and error, I figured out that pretty much like that, everything seems to line up. So let's get these screws in there. That's pretty good. I want to just see here. Oh, that's weird. You know what? Because there's not that much throw with that, it's actually not even hitting those switches. Well, that's not going to work. What the hell? Ah. Yeah, that's not going to work. You need... I wonder if I could... No, that's still not going to work, is it? Shit. Well, crap. All right, I'm back, and I know exactly why this joystick does not work with our motorized restrictor here. And the short version of it is that either I'm just blind, ignorant, or an idiot, or all the above. So first, after I was having trouble with this, I went on to the main website, and right in the middle of the page, I don't know how I missed this, it says that this is for Sanwa compatible joysticks, and then it said something like use the joystick of your choice. So it's a little misleading, but the gist is this only works for Sanwa style joysticks. But to be fair, I got this off Amazon, and nowhere on that site does it mention anything about Sanwa. Of course, right after, you know, and I was even showing you guys this box, and, you know, here's the thing I got. Look at this, right here it says, for Sanwa compatible joysticks. I don't know how I missed that, but it got me thinking, because I don't have a Sanwa joystick, but I did have a spare. Let me grab this here. Let me just zoom out. I did have a spare Hori stick, because, you know, I play a lot of Street Fighter 2, and my fight stick uses this stick. This is the stick I prefer. Actually, this is the same joystick I used in my Big Blue, and I also use it in my fight stick. So I grabbed this because I have a spare one of these just in case, and pop this restrictor off. Actually, here, let me just do this real quick. I'll show you guys, because it got me curious. Since both these sticks and Sanwa are really common in fight sticks and candy cabs and all that stuff. In fact, that's what I'm most familiar with Sanwa stuff, is with candy cabs and fighting games in general. It's a very common style joystick. But with these classic arcade games, really don't have them because no one uses them. These are more modern sticks. And so you're not going to find them typically in your classic early 80s games because they just weren't a thing. All right. Let me pull this off here. Okay. So anyways, I grabbed this because I was just real curious if this was actually compatible. And sure enough, well, let's see here. Boom. It just it really just kind of falls into place. Let me pull this off. There's these little pieces of plastic that stick up, and the same pattern is right there. It basically just kind of falls into place. It drops right in. So I'm like, oh. So by Sanwa compatible, basically they just mean anything that kind of has that same design, this same style joystick. And now I can't use, well, I don't want to use this one for a couple of reasons. But anyways, that kind of gave me the aha moment. But yeah, I don't want to use this one because this is a spare for my fight stick. And the other reason is this has a black ball top. I don't have it doesn't have a red one, and I kind of want to keep that since it's on a Miss Pac cabinet. Even though this isn't, you know, like a Leaf joystick and it's not original to that cabinet, I still want it to look kind of similar, and so I want that red ball top. But this also won't completely work without some modification, because this, as you can see here, I'm putting these Phillips screws back in, and the Sanwa stuff doesn't use screws, they use these plastic snaps, which I'm kind of torn between. I'll show you guys in just a second here. Anyways, so what I did after that was I went out and I did buy a Sanwa joystick here. And let me just take this apart. There's our red ball top. All right. So here's my Sanwa joystick. Put this, I'm running out of real estate here. All right. These are our dust washers. I'm just going to set these off to the side. All right, so here is our Sanwa stick, and let me just zoom in a little bit here. And you can see it's got these tabs, these plastic tabs here. So in order for me to remove the restrictor here, I just have to push these in and start prying this off. This should just come right off here. There. So I'm not a big fan of these tabs, because every time that I mess with this restrictor, putting it on, taking it off, and especially putting it back on, you have to use enough force that it just feels like one of these is just going to snap. I'm just going to put a little too much pressure, and maybe that's not the case. I mean, maybe these are pretty heavy duty, but I wish that they used screws. I wish this whole design used Phillips screws, but you know, it's a nitpick. So anyways, I'm going to put this back on here, or put this on here, I should say, and line it up, and then I should just be able to push this down. There. And that really snaps in place. All right, so now that we definitely have the right stick, if I move the joystick around, it's hitting all the switches just fine. I guess that's another tell why this joystick wasn't going to work, because of the restrictor plate size. You know, this one had more play. The restrictor is a little wider than this one. You know what? Let me just pull. Oh wait, no, I got to mark this. All right. Well, anyways, I want to test this before I do any mounting, before I do anything. I just want to make sure that everything about this works. So hang on a second, let me get all set up here and let's test this guy. All right, now that I have a little more real estate. Okay, so we got our joystick with the servo switchable restrictor plate attached. I'm just gonna say, actually, let me just put this ball top on here. Looks kind of weird without it. Let me just screw on, which I like and I don't like. I like it because you don't have to pull, you know, like with the old school joysticks, you know, you'd have to remove the E-clip, pull this off to get it mounted in the control panel. And here you don't have to do that because you can just unscrew this. But every once in a while, with these screw ball tops, I do notice that every once in a while, you know, someone might be playing it and they might be gripping it like this, and it gets a little loose, but not a big deal. Anyways, okay, so there's our joystick. Then we need our controller board here. Let me just got that. Let's see, we need our button, and then it's powered by USB. I think I need, am I gonna need a wall wart? Yeah, let me grab one of those real quick. Okay, got a wall wart here. And this is just for testing. I'm gonna do something different when it comes to mounting this in the cabinet, assuming that everything works here without a hitch. But let's see here. And then plug this into power. Okay. All right, so this guy plugs into one of these guys here. Now this this does support up to 4 joysticks, so it doesn't really matter, to my knowledge, which one of these we plug this into, as long as the button is on its same port here, on the same pair. And I did look up the pin out of this because I didn't want to screw this up, and brown is ground. Here, let me... Okay. Actually, let's see here. These are labeled like A, B, C, D. A, okay. Okay, so we got that plugged in. Now, let's see here. We gotta plug our button in. I'm just gonna take this nut off. Okay. Okay, and let's undo this here. All right, and then we plug this guy right into there, like that. And then I guess we just plug power in. Let's go over. Like that. Oh, well, our button lit up. So, let's see here. I'm gonna hit this. Oh, she's working. Let's see here. I don't know if you guys can see that. All right, so watch that bottom. I don't know if you guys can see that. And I'm gonna hit. All right, so blue, looks like blue means 4-way, the color blue. You can kind of see the restrictor in there. So right now it's on 4-way mode because it, let's see, is that a better angle? Because it's got that diamond shape. So if I'm holding it, okay, now if I hit the button, oops. See, now it's a square. So now we got our 8-way. So that's pretty darn slick. 4-way. There. It's tough to show you guys this because the servo, the motor is kind of in the way. But you can see it move. That's pretty sweet. Okay, so it's working. That's good, and that was pretty darn easy. All right, so let me zoom out here. Okay. All right, so that's working. So here's my plan. Let me actually unplug the power here so I can show you this. Now, I don't want, since this is USB powered, and it is just the 5 volts, that's what the USB power supplies. My game plan here is something like this. I'm going to use, I got a pair of these, It's just basically a terminal style female USB plug. I'm going to mount this in the cabinet because I don't want to lop this off and just directly wire the 5 volts to my power supply, because this also interfaces with your computer, and there's a utility you can use to kind of fine tune this if you need to. I don't know if I'm going to need to until I have this mounted in the cabinet, but you can kind of tweak the angle that servo changes. So like if you've got this, the way I'm thinking is if I've got this mounted in there and I realize that, you know, it's just slightly off, like it's not quite perfectly square with the control panel for the 4 and 8 way, I can tweak that, but I can't do that if I lop this off. So I'm going to use this guy here, and that way I can plug this in and then I can run the 5 volts right to the power supply. So simple solution. So that's what I'm going to do for that. And then for the button, I made just a real basic little wood box out of plywood, 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood, because I want to mount this inside the cabinet. I don't want to drill another hole into that control panel for a couple reasons. One, it's got it looks nice as it is. It looks clean, and adding this other button that illuminates and stuff is just, to me, going to look really freaking tacky. The other reason is that we have people over here fairly often, and I don't want this button confusing them and being like, oh, what does this do? And then hitting it and constantly changing the 4 and 8 way restrictor back and forth. And so they don't need that. The only time that honestly we're going to be using this is when we're playing other games in there, because anytime we have people over, it's always just set on Miss Pac-Man, because that's the game that they're going to play. That's what they're familiar with. So it's going to be on that 4-way. And it's just one less thing to confuse them, because the only time we're going to be using this is when we're just, me and Carrie are out here playing games. And so I want to mount this in an easy accessible spot, but probably inside the coin door, inside the cabinet. So I made this box, and let's see here. Oh, actually, I'll just show you. But I made this box, and the button just fits in here. And then I've got this recessed area on the bottom that I can just tighten the nut on there. And I think that'll be a lot cleaner. And I can just mount this on the side of the cabinet somewhere that's easily accessible. So that's my game plan. Let me go grab that control panel and get this thing mounted on there, and then we'll go from there. All right, here we go. Got the control panel up here. I did do a couple things off camera, namely marking the wires here, because I want to make sure I get the orientation right so that I don't put this all back in there and, you know, up is actually down, and so on and so forth. So I just did some simple labeling of the wires here. And then with the joystick, I also marked it here. And also, since this joystick has a separate little header with wires, what I did was I actually crimped on male quick disconnects. These have little, the mating tab inside there. So basically, I can just take these quick disconnects and plug them right in there. I don't have to cut anything and resolder. And who knows, you know, if I end up down the road deciding that I want to put a different joystick back in here, I've already got the quick disconnects on there. So makes things a lot cleaner and a lot simpler. And I'll probably have to do a little more cable management after I'm done, but that should simplify things a bit. Let's see, anything else? Oh, I did do one other thing. So with the wire, it was the wire that comes off the motor here was relatively short. I think it was only like about yay long. And originally I was going to mount the controller board like somewhere around in here. I was going to use those little 3M foam adhesive pieces to put it there. But the more I thought about it, you know, I'm already mounting that button inside the cabinet. And the more I thought about it, the more I didn't like this idea for a couple reasons. One, it can get a bit messy in here. But the other thing is that since I'm already mounting that button, I didn't like this being here, because then I'm limited to where the wiring goes, where that button goes, and it's kind of tethered, because these aren't really long wires. These aren't long cables. And I also don't like the idea of this being in here because there's 3 different pieces of wire. There's the button, there's the motor or the the servo, and then there's the USB connection. So there's all these cables going. There's 3 different types of cables going to this, all putting a little bit of strain on here, all being a little tethered. And if I'm removing this control panel for whatever reason, I forget about that, this thing could just rip out of here or damage something. And so I just don't like all that stress being put on this and everything being real tight. And so what I did was I just soldered about 18 inches of additional cable on here just to extend this. And so now I have a lot more play, a lot more freedom with this, and I can mount this inside the cabinet. I'm probably just going to use some PCB feet and mount this somewhere in the cabinet. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, so I guess we can start mounting this joystick in here, and I'm just going to unplug all of my quick disconnects first here. And I have these labeled like 1, 2, 3, 4. I also mounted or put some tape, some painter's tape, in the corner of the joystick mounting plate so that I know when I put my other one in there where that goes. So I really shouldn't be able to screw this up. But I've been known to still do that, so who knows. Okay. And these 2 here. All right, move that out of the way. There we go. Let's see, what's this hung up on? Oh, wait, oh, there's still one on here. What is this caught on? Oops, I'm an idiot. The the red ball, the ball top is still screwed onto the joystick, so I need to undo that here. I was just talking about how convenient that is, that you can just do this and you don't have to remove this E-clip and all that jazz, but I completely forgot about it. There we go. Whoops, that's fine. All right, so I will put this somewhere else, hang on to it, because it's always good to have a backup joystick. You can't have enough of those. All right. And then, let's see here, grab our guy here. Oh, that's right, there's the dust washer. Shoot, am I going to have to, I wonder if I could, you know what? I'm just going to leave this in here. I can probably just reuse this and cover that hole, because it did come with 2. With a lot of these fight sticks, they have a dust washer on top as well as underneath the control panel or a fight stick or whatever you're using, which is why they include 2 there. But I want to see if I can just use the same dust washer. Let's see here. Oh, that reminds me. I can't do this quite yet. Let me put this back up here. All right, so the mounting. So this is the original joystick, or the joystick that was in there, and it's got this mounting plate that fits on here. And unfortunately, the new joystick has a different plate, and the holes don't line up. And so to fix that, to remedy that, where is that? I got one of these universal mounting plates. I use these same ones on my big blue cabinet, and they work great. They have, I mean, it's just like a Swiss cheese. There's a bazillion different profiles and mounting holes and all that stuff. So this will work just fine, but I need to swap that out with this guy here. So let me just do that real quick. Let's see here, it's just these Phillips screws. And again, I have this one also marked so that when I swap this plate out, I don't I don't forget the orientation or get that wrong. I really like this set of screwdrivers. I bought a whole set that are non-metal. These are non-conductive because I was getting tired of working on monitors and having to shut them off because I wanted to use a screwdriver that was metal, whether that was flathead or Phillips. And so I bought a bunch of these, and some of them are really long, so they're great, honestly, for making adjustments or turning pots and whatnot. I have plenty of those TV adjustment tools, but there are times where I just want to use something like this. And I can't remember where, I think I got these off Amazon. But it's a whole set, and there's some that are like, the shaft is like that long. It's pretty awesome. Okay. Oops, I dropped a screw. 1 second here. All right. Put that down, and then, let's see here. That guy comes off, and then there's that plate. And it does line up just perfect. Right about there. So I actually bought 2 different styles of this universal mounting plate. I bought one that's Pac-Man style. That should just fit this because Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and all these the Midway games, they use this wider mounting plate, and because the joystick's kind of unique, it's got a pretty big frame, and to line up with the carriage bolts and all that jazz. So it's this longer design, and I'll show you guys just in a second. But I ended up opting to use this in combination with this plate here because the universal plate is very similar to this one in that it's just a flat plate. And yeah, it would fit here, but since it's flat, if you notice this, well, maybe you can't see that, but there's a little lip here, and which makes the joystick on the other side, I'll show you in just a second, but it makes it sit a little bit shorter. And so, you know, you may remember like the original leaf switch joystick for Miss Pac-Man doesn't sit real high outside off the control panel. And so if I use that flat plate, there we go. All right, if I use that flat plate here, I'll show you. So here it is. If I, let me see, there, if we go like this, there. So if I use a flat plate just like this, and it's flush against the panel, more of the shaft of the joystick's gonna stand up. And so if I don't have this lip, it's gonna be much taller, and I wanna keep that to a minimum. I wanna keep it a little bit shorter so that it's closer to what these classic games, the height of the shaft should be, if that makes sense. But anyways, so that's why I opted not to do that. All right. So now, let's see here, it goes like that. Move all this stuff out of the way here. Get that lined up. Okay, and all right, voila. Okay, now, oh, I need to grab those, the cap nuts that go on here. I don't have those here. Okay, then we need to tie these guys up. All right, there's my harness. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to do some cable management here because there's a bunch of excess wire, but not a problem. Just a matter of how many zip ties. Let's see. Or should I come down like this? I think I'll go under. Ooh. I'm gonna have to re-crimp this guy. This quick disconnect is a little too loose on that. Okay, that's on there. I'm going to take care of this real quick here. All right, well, my my battery died while I was doing that, but I just tightened up one of these. So we just need to connect our wires here. So I have them all labeled like 1, 2, 3, 4, just for easy tracking. All right. Okay, let's see here. Number 2. That's 4, 2 is right here. You know what? I'm gonna cut these. Cut those zip ties. I'm gonna have to redo that work anyways, so can never have too many zip ties, I guess, because I end up redoing my work so many times. That one's okay. Let's cut this one. Oh, we'll leave those. Okay, so we got number 1 there. 2 is right here. Okay. And one more because we need our ground. And luckily we should only have to connect 1 because these are all daisy chained here. Let's just do, we'll do this one right here. All right, now I'm going to get a butt ton of zip ties, clean this all up, and then we'll come back. And I think should be ready to at least test this. Yeah. All right, I'll be right back. All right, well, I used a butt ton of zip ties like always, but I'm pretty happy with how this came out. I just want everything to be nice and neat so that nothing gets pinched or whatever when we put the control panel in. And I also want this to be nice and clear and free of any wires so that it can do its thing freely without any chance of a wire or something getting in the way. All right, I'm gonna put let's put this on here. Feels pretty good. All right, now before we mount this in its in the cabinet in its final resting spot, I just want to do one more test just to make sure my soldering was good, everything functions the way it should outside of the cabinet, and then we'll throw everything in there. Let's see here. Need this guy, and we need, I guess it doesn't really matter, but okay. Brown is ground, so it goes like this. And we need our button. Okay, and then we need power. Okay, we got our light. That's a good sign. Let's see here. Right about there. All right, bring the button over here. Hopefully you guys can see this. All right. Oops. Aha. Okay, so yep, so red is 8-way. I'm looking at the restrictor. And then we got our 4-way. Sweet. All right. So now I am going to mount this in the cabinet, and let's go from there. Give everything a test. This is getting exciting. All right, I think I'm ready to install the control panel, but let me just show you guys what I did here. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. As far as mounting things go, all right, so right there is my USB connection. So you can see those two wires on the back there. Let me try to get in here. The red and the black are my 5 volts and the ground, and those go right into the power supply there. And by the way, you can see that here's the original Miss Pac-Man boards and all the original cables. I have them all kind of tied up here, just in case for whatever reason we decided to revert this back to just a dedicated Miss Pac-Man. We could do that. But yeah, so there's the Bitkit. That's that little board there. That's the FPGA. There's the power supply. And yeah, so that's the power for the joystick. That's our 5 volts. And you can see I've got the USB cable running into that. And then that goes up into the front of the cabinet. In which case, let me show you guys that. All right. So right down inside there, there's my button. And then there's the controller board. And I tried to tidy up the cabling as best I could to keep it kind of clean. But the idea is, oops, I'm tripping over cables here. The idea of this all is that we can just open up the coin door and press that button. And it's easily accessible, just barely an arm's reach in there. So I think they'll suffice. They'll do a nice job and make things kind of inconspicuous so that the public doesn't get confused. But let me grab the tripod and let's get this control panel on there and test this thing out. I'm pretty excited. Okay, let's see here. Okay, first I need to plug this guy in since this is the vital little frail cable here. Okay, that looks right. And we can put this on. All right, and let's connect the control panel here. 2 Molexes. I know you guys can't see this, but it's nothing exciting. It's just two Molexes. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's see. I'm not gonna, well, I can just leave it like that. All right, so I think, oh wait, I gotta lock this thing down. There's 3 clamps here. I don't want that thing moving around. Okay, and let's see here. I could probably turn this off. And let's turn this game on. Let's see here. Let me move this over here just a little bit. These Geo7s take a little while to warm up. All right, well, let's switch to a game that's 8-way because even though the joysticks right now is set as a 4-way, yeah, I want to make sure that A, all those directions are working, but also B, we can't hit diagonals, that it is functioning as a proper 4-way joystick. So let me get into the menu here. Oops, I didn't hold the button long enough. I do that sometimes. There we go. All right, so Tasmania is an 8-way game. Let's see, Super Cobra, Lizard Wizard. Let's see, what else have we got here? Pioneer Balloon is. Maybe that would be a good one. Actually, let's do Tasmania. Why not? It's a goofy game. All right, well, first, let me start a game here, and let's just make sure that we're getting all the right directions. Okay, left, right, up, down. Okay, that's good. And yeah, I can't, you're supposed to be able to do diagonals, and obviously I can't here. All right, yeah, this is good. I think there's, okay, and this game has 2 buttons. All right, I'm just gonna kill myself. Okay. All right, so now let me go down here into the coin door, and I'm gonna hit the button here. I heard the servo, it's now red. And let's try another game. This should now, yeah, it feels like an 8-way. Let's give it a shot here. Yeah, there we go. See, now I can hit all 8 directions. Sweet. That's really awesome. And then, yeah. All right, let me try, I want to try a different game. We'll do Jump Bug. Or, no, let's do Pioneer Balloon. All right, and it's still on an 8-way, so we should be able to do all the directions. Yep. This is actually a lot of fun, this game. All right. Okay, so now I'm gonna, you can't see this, but I'm just hitting the button, so it's now back to a 4-way, and we should not be able to hit all those directions now. Yep, I can't do diagonals. All right, and back. Sweet. All right, well, that's freaking awesome. All right, let's go back to Miss Pac-Man. Actually, it should just auto boot to that. Yeah, there we go. Sweet. Well, there you have it. I gotta say that I'm quite impressed. I think this is a really slick solution. I'm actually just gonna turn this back to 4-way because that's what this game defaults to, Miss Pac-Man. But yeah, I think that's a really slick solution. The joystick feels good. It's a real easy, practical way to play these games. And like I said before, you know, we were just, a lot of times, the hassle of having to change that restrictor, even though it's supposed to be easy with that other joystick, it's just not. And you just end up, you know, you think about it, how much work it's gonna be, and it's like, oh, screw it, I don't even wanna go through the hassle, and therefore you avoid those 8-way games. But now we have a really easy solution, and the installation was pretty straightforward. other than it being limited to Sanwa stuff, or Sanwa compatible, which is just a very minor nitpick, not a big deal at all. I'd say this is a very, very practical solution. I'm happy with it. Again, I think this thing was like 30 bucks, so I mean, totally worth it. But hope you guys found this video kind of fun. I thought it'd be fun to document this. I wasn't sure how slick this was going to be. Obviously, it's not an original joystick, but you know, there's 30 games on here or so, 30-ish games. So yeah, what a great solution. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, take care.